Greetings, this is Greg for Tesla Fan Insight. Today is the 4th of April 2018, and I'll be bold to suggest that today is perhaps the biggest day of the year, maybe of the lifetime, for Tesla and the Model 3. And I've been preparing my story for this week because the New York Times actually had some real negative comments to say about Tesla, implying bankruptcy. And so today I'd like to cover one, the news of today that's huge. I think that's game-changing for the company Tesla. Number two, I wanted to do an update of our trucks. Now, our visit site today is actually at RFK Stadium in Washington, D.C. For those of you who don't know, it used to be the home of the Redskins, and now it's simply a soccer stadium temporarily, and soon may get torn down. The first part of my discussion today focuses on the fact that Elon, based I believe on a New York Times article, has a picture that I'll try to load on here, and it says Bankwuptcy, but instead of Ruptcy, it has a WUPTCY. So I saw this and I was like, oh man, he's playing around, I'm hoping, but he's also doing it in a, I think it's in poor taste given the concerns a lot of people have had about the company. So first, what the factual news is. Tesla has announced that their final week of the quarter, they've gotten up to 2,020 Model 3s a week. Elon Musk has now retaken control of manufacturing, and what I was about to sort of put up, and what I was about to put up on my screen was just the fact that the New York Times came out with a sort of a negative article on where Tesla was potentially going when it was thought to actually be the future, and that perhaps the future just got killed by how badly things are going in production of the Model 3. So Elon Musk is now sleeping on the manufacturing floor of the Model 3 to get that going, and I think it's awesome. I also wanted to note to all my friends that I won't be breaking in until the end to greet all of you, even though I can see your messages and I'll take your questions, because several people have talked about the fact that it interrupts the flow of our dialogue. So before I dive deep, please note, please like and subscribe. If it is the first time on our channel, please hit the bell icon, as well as like and subscribe so you don't miss anything. Now, I was trying to experiment with different ideas, so the goal might be a little bit different views, so I'll start moving again as we close out. And I probably will show you sort of the scene here as well, but I won't do it at the beginning so that we can dive into our discussion. So as we've reviewed, Tesla is perceived to be in a really bad position right now because of nearly missing their loan covenants in terms of payments that were due based on the volume of cars that were being sold. So evidently the number is 9,000 vehicles produced for the quarter, and they're now up to about 2,000 vehicles a week. Now, the suggestion is that we're at 2,000 vehicles heading for 2,500 to 3,000 over the next month or so. And I think that pace suggests that more of you who are in line will start seeing your cars, and I think that's good news. The other portion that's sort of the bombshell and why the stock price is up $16 today is that it was announced that Tesla's not going to raise any more money this year. Now, I'm kind of shocked. I think everybody's kind of shocked with how are they able to do this, given that the number of cars being sold, doesn't equal the debt payments that are due. It is good to know, though, that when you're selling 2,000 vehicles a week times $60,000 a pop, that's $120 million a week in revenue. So I think that this is good news for everybody that owns the stock. This is good news for everyone that wants to see Tesla do well. And I think the marketplace is sort of responding to this. Prior to this comment, my show was really going to focus on the fact that I thought that if these numbers were bad, the stock ends up at 150. If the numbers are good, it ends up at 350 in a week or so. So I think the headline I changed to on this show will likely be, Tesla 200 or Tesla 300 in the next 7 days. And I think the news that they're not going to raise capital suggests that they're heading for $300 a share in the near term, and I think that'll take a week or two as the market recovers from some of the downdrafts that we've seen. I'm also intrigued by the news that Elon Musk has decided to start sleeping on the floor of the Model 3 to try to get the production rolling on that vehicle. I mean, it's good to have one extra pair of hands to get the work done. Does this mean we'll get a nice spike in production that'll sort of disappear once he leaves? Or are we getting things in place for good long-term meeting of production goals that they have from the plant? I'm hopeful, and I'm going to be positive about it and just say we're at 2,000 a week now. We're going to be at 3,000 a week in the next month or so. And once we stabilize in that 5,000 car or 3,000 to 5,000 car a week zone, we're about on target of where they're supposed to be right now, with the goal of being 10,000 by the end of the summer. I think might be a realistic goal if they can get there. So I think all of this is good news. I think it's significant enough for us to take time out and sort of acknowledge it, because many of the viewers that I have are not only owners of the vehicles, but also investors around the world. Please, we have another 8 to 10 minutes to go. If you have questions you'd like to pose, please go ahead and type them in so I can interact with you on that basis at the end of my fixed comments. The next thing I wanted to cover today, and I think I'm going to start driving and let you guys look around RFK Stadium a bit. The next thing I wanted to cover today is sightings of the semi-truck. Now, something very interesting just occurred, which is the semi-truck was said to be sort of doing a nationwide tour. The truck, at least the black semi-truck, was seen riding on the backside of a truck in Iowa, and it's my understanding currently that what's actually happening is they're going from location to location, making sure that customers can sort of put their hands on the vehicle. I think this is really important because there are a lot of people that are not only putting up the cost of the truck to purchase, but they're having to rework their entire organization. They're having to build their entire organization to support sort of truck execution. That means you've got to build supercharger or mega charger space. You've got to plan how those trucks are going to sit. There's a whole bunch of planning that's going to go in, and I think it's a 5 to 10 year horizon of everybody that wants them, that have currently ordered, getting their trucks. So I think it's great that they're getting a vehicle out there. The other thing I'm starting to notice is there's a discussion going, for example, in electric.co, that talks about the trucks have now returned to California and doing loops. And what I'm noticing is that there's one truck that's been seen in California and seen in Iowa on the same day, or the next day. So the number of miles, which is 2,000 between the two places, is a little bit too great for a vehicle to be in two locations within 24 hours of each other. So what this suggests then is that Tesla may have a few extra trucks that they're using as demos to travel, and I think it's great that customers get to see the vehicles and put their hands on them before they have to make large commitments. The next thing I wanted to get into is the fact that I really think the truck is way more important than the cars because of the amount of pollution that's put out by diesel trucks, and the segment of the market Tesla is targeting represents sort of 90% of the freight, or 80% of the freight moved, but a high percentage of how much pollution is being pumped into the air. So I'm intrigued. The thing that I'm feeling right now is that I just saw, so bottom line is trucks are doing fine. They're traveling around the country. They're getting a lot of miles and data on them. One thing I was thinking about too is the fact that when you generate trucks that are riding mountains, that are riding all kinds of temperatures, I think that for companies that are going to be in flat land situations, those folks really don't need to necessarily drive the truck hardcore in easy zones. I think they really need to skip having the truck come to them and take that sucker up in the mountains and beat it up, because you're getting hands-on exposure to worst case scenario. The other scenario I haven't seen the trucks in that I think is important is real high temperature. So I haven't seen any desert tests for these things yet, but I think that's the final sort of leg of testing. One of the questions that's been posed to me on here is, what do I think they're going to do about the production line? My response to that is that J.B. Stroebel, who's the Chief Technical Officer, has pointed out that what he's actually excited about is that the battery process and the process of building vehicles scales easily when it comes to trucks. So what he's sort of implied is if you already have your electric motors and you have a battery, the amount of stuff required to actually move up to a truck is fairly slim. So if you guys go backwards, you'll notice that we're actually placing the build of the model of the Roadster as well as the truck in a place called Livermore, California. And yes, I believe they're going to do it. One of the questions that was posed was, do they have the money to do it? And the answer is, shoot, they're getting $20,000 a truck before it's built. And that's a decent amount of cash. And let's say you have 1,000, let's say for giggles, we have 1,000 trucks at $20K a pop. I want to say $200 million is not huge cash, but it's large enough numbers to actually sort of equip a facility. So they leased a large manufacturing space of 1 million square feet in Livermore, California. And yeah, I think they're actually going to build that thing. They're going to build those vehicles there. And I think it's a really bad idea. I actually wish Tesla would create a new company called Tesla Truck and simply let it ride off on its own and allow people to buy shares or split the shares off or something like that, because now the trucks can actually make a run on their own without splitting management teams, etc., and there's more capital to work with. The final thing I wanted to cover when it comes to the whole the final thing I wanted to cover today is that, frankly, I was worried about bankruptcy being on the table based on how things were going with the Model 3. And now that we've heard what the numbers are, how much cash is coming in, and the implied this is $2,000 a week is the lowest number we might see, I think this is a good thing. The last thing I wanted to sort of jump into, and I don't know if you guys care, but I will be diving more heavily into this, is a mystery question of the day. And the mystery question of the day is, why is Tesla building two kinds of trucks? Now, you've seen the black one that goes 250 miles. You've seen the silver one that's rated at 500 miles. Now, the answer, it's a complex answer. Number one, there's an issue of drayage. So right now in a place called Oakland, California, there's a company called BYD that is getting $250,000 per truck for a vehicle that that goes 100 miles. And the question is, why is that? And the answer is because there's this huge issue in port cities around the world of diesel fumes and the impact on those communities of having all those diesel trucks doing long or short-term runs that are local with freight that's coming into those ports. So I don't know the exact number, but I wouldn't, right now that's where Toyota's hydrogen product is in LA. BYD is getting traction in Oakland. So basically, this drayage business, from what I can tell, is definitely 10% of the market. But because of the unique circumstances, I wouldn't be shocked to see 30 to 40% of the electric truck market be just drayage around the world. So in theory, I was thinking Tesla should just be building one truck, because all you do is cut the mileage and now you can deal with a shorter run. In a drayage situation, you might see trucks simply moving freight from once that container is dropped off the ship that container may go within the territory, be it a quarter, a half mile or so, or it might go 5 or 10 miles. That range is fairly small, and there isn't a lot of aerodynamic needs in terms of all the other thing that the silver truck would have on it. The flip side argument against just concentrating on trades like that is the fact that, bottom line, if you look at how Mercedes is handling their electric trucks, what they've found is some customers want to be able to lower the weight of the vehicle because they don't need as much range. Others want more range and they want more battery. So there's weight considerations, etc. So in theory, my thought was that Tesla should be just producing one truck, but there are short range situations that don't require the aerodynamics of the hood or that's above on the silver, but you don't see it on the black truck. So long-winded statement to say, clearly there are customers that have specifically asked to get rid of the aerodynamic junk that goes on a truck but have it electric, and I think drayage is one of the most important businesses in that regard. I can also see this being an issue when you consider that sort of brewing companies where you have a route that the driver drives and the plant is within 10 or 20 miles of a number of restaurants. They too are another high volume, like Bud, would be an example. These entities need every ounce that they can preserve across how the truck is structured because of how heavy the loads are that they're having to move. And if you have inner city situations that are starting to ban non-electric vehicles, and that's what the future looks like, these companies need to start transitioning their fleets over in order to do this. And then, frankly, margins are tight in the grocery stores, so entities involved in that kind of business are going to be serious about their cost maintenance as well. So I don't want to drag on to stuff. As you can see behind me, I'm still sort of circling what we call, I'm trying to give you a little bit of view without getting out, but we're circling RFK Stadium in Washington, D.C. RFK stands for Robert F. Kennedy Stadium, and it used to be the home of the Redskins, and it's now the home of D.C. United, the soccer team, and sort of heading off into this direction. It's in the rainy, cold zone, and I think that's about all we're going to cover today. So please take time to like and subscribe if this is your first time on our channel. We'd love to have you come back once again. Our Patreon connection is Patreon.com/Tesla Advisor is the name of the entity at Patreon. $1 or $2 a month would really help us to get everything we're doing done better, so we'd really appreciate your support. Wanted to give hello to everybody that said hi on my screen there. I deliberately didn't go through my normal process because a number of our viewers have asked me not to do that. So Jerry, I saw you. Greetings, buenos dias in Chile. Thanks for joining us. My friends in Europe, you guys are really great about saying hello as well. Thank you for doing so on a regular basis. Any rate, exciting day for Tesla. 2,000 units or 2,020 units produced and sold this past week. That's awesome. Hoping to hear that we're up to 2,500 to 3,000 a week in the next couple of weeks. No capital raising by the company, so the bonds are good to go as well. And also, I just think a lot of positive news, and we're not seeing the bankruptcy suggesting that Elon wrote in. So I think all in all, some pretty positive stuff. Would not be shocked to see Tesla's stock price jump 10 or 15% in the next 4 or 5 trading days as a result of all the news that I just saw. I do believe that there's a slim possibility we might get a short squeeze, where there are a number of companies that have been shorting the stock, and if it starts to move rapidly up, I think that Aquiles, buenos dias, señor. I just think there's a number of entities that could be in deep trouble because Tesla is doing better than expected, and when they start to buy stock, it could force the stock up rather rapidly, and you guys that own it could make a lot of money in the process. Once again, this is Greg for Tesla Van Insights. Thanks for joining us. Muchas gracias, Spanish, adios, au revoir, français, tschüss, macht's gut, German, walk, good man, enough respect. Thanks, John, for your comments. I also, we have our Tesla Fan Insight. Bye from Hockey Day. Thanks for taking time out. I also wanted to remind you, just got my real estate license, so if you're buying or selling anywhere in the United States, we'd love to get an opportunity to work with you if possible. And feel free to add, comments, questions. We are Tesla Fan Insight. We will point out things that might not be good, et cetera, but in general, we're Tesla Fan Insight. So if you hate Tesla, et cetera, we're probably not a good site for you to visit with. Have a great day. Khoda Hafez, Farsi, and Lahitrot or Shalom, Hebrew. Thanks again and have a great day. Look forward to our next conversation.